on.
What's the story?
Approximately 20 minutes ago, 3 white male suspects tried to rob the bank near Town Center. Precinct unit arrived as a silent alarm was activated. They made it to their getaway car and a pursuit was initiated. That pursuit went throughout a good portion of the city from Town Center out here to this rural area and then over to the warehouse across on the other side of these trees. Suspects broke from the vehicle and into the warehouse where we have approximately 5 to 7 workers inside that they immediately took hostage. Looks like they began to lock and barricade all the doors. Precinct officers created a perimeter and SWAT officers began showing up. We immediately dispatched an emergency entry or action team and then snipers as well. Right now, we're briefing the team commander, trying to develop our tactical plan.
All right, well, we've got a good perimeter. Let's take care of it.
The origins of what we know as room combat today were actually developed in World War II. However, it took quite some time for those lessons learned to be translated to law enforcement activities. In the past, the first responder to a crisis situation would have been the standard patrolman. He would have had no body armor, would have been carrying his service revolver with no formal training and with no support from a specialized unit. Things have advanced quite a lot since then. In this week's Then and Now, we're going to take a look at clearing a building using 3 classic weapons that law enforcement officers have used for room clearing operations.
Let's take a look at the MP5 and see how it would do in a situation like the one we showed you earlier in the episode. The MP5, due to its design, is very controllable to shoot. Another great thing about the MP5 is its compact design. It makes it extremely easy to use in hallways and around tight corners. The fact that the MP5 carries a large magazine capacity, and I'm not going to run out of ammunition in the middle of a long gunfight. It's also an accurate weapon. It provides me the ability to engage targets across large rooms. Although the MP5 is a very effective weapon in clearing buildings and could probably still get the job done today, it's no surprise that it's being replaced with weapons of newer design with superior calibers like the M4 and the G36.
In the United States, the shotgun remains one of the most common long guns in the standard police car. So when law enforcement officers are first responders to a major crisis, they're often armed with a shotgun like this 870. However, in a dynamic room clearing situation or a school shooting like Columbine, Colorado in 1999, the shotgun is not the optimal tool. Let's examine its strengths and weaknesses in the context of the scenario that we simulated earlier in today's show. It goes without saying that a shotgun at close range is devastating. However, when dealing with a situation like this hallway, the shotgun would not be my first choice. Loaded with buckshot, the pattern dispersion at the end of the hallway would mean for an increased chance of hitting a
Tactical Impact is brought to you by Double Star.
On October 25, 1950, China entered the Korean conflict, committing more than 100,000 men to cross the Yalu River and battle the UN forces in northern Korea, dramatically shifting the balance of power on the ground. For the next month, UN forces were pinned down, facing and repelling successive waves of mass attacks. Much of the 10th Corps soon found itself surrounded by superior numbers of Chinese troops in and around the Chosin Reservoir. The winter weather was brutal, and thousands of men began to suffer from frostbite. Conditions were becoming dire, and viable tactical options were dwindling.
On 26 November 1950, Major General O.P. Smith, commander of the 1st Marine Division and associated forces in the Chosin area, was ordered to break the Chinese stranglehold and fight their way to the coast. For the next 10 days, ferocious battles raged throughout the area as U.S. Marines, U.S. Army, and UN troops both defended strategic strongholds and broke through Chinese encirclements. On November 29th, a combined force of U.S. Marines, British Royal Marines, and some U.S. Army units were ordered to clear a path along the road from their position to the main Allied base at Hagaro-ri. The 900-man force, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Drysdale, were heading into an area that would soon become known as Hellfire Valley. If I would have been with those Marines on that extremely cold November morning, getting ready to break out towards Hagaro-ri, the factors I would consider in choosing a weapon would be, number one, a large magazine capacity and rapid reloading capability. We're almost certain to run into an enemy massed in large numbers, and the battle to break out is likely to be long, so I want a lot of sustainable firepower. I would also want a weapon that is capable of engaging the enemy at a range of distances, from very close out to 400 or 500 yards. And lastly, I would want my weapon of a sufficient caliber to break through cover. I would anticipate enemy in entrenched fortifications during ambushes, so I want the ability to punch through it as much as possible. If you were pushing out with Task Force Drysdale into the Hellfire Valley, what weapon would you choose? Your choices this week on Choose Your Weapon are: number one, the Browning automatic rifle, a select fire Korean conflict workhorse with a 20-round detachable box magazine. Or the M3 submachine gun, better known as the grease gun, a 45 ACP fully automatic submachine gun with a 30-round magazine. And your final choice is the FNFAL, a select fire battle rifle in 7.62 NATO with a 20-round detachable box magazine. This weapon was put into production right at the very end of the Korean conflict.
The BAR was at Chosin Reservoir and was a great choice. It had a reputation for being extremely rugged. It also had a fairly high rate of fire, and most importantly, it was chambered in a round that could reach out and be effective to at least 600 yards.
The BAR is a rugged and effective weapon, and it served the U.S. servicemen well during the Korean conflict. However, at 16 to 19 pounds, it's quite a load to carry, especially during an operation like the breakout from Chosin Reservoir. While it's effective at moderate ranges, its length and bulk make it difficult to maneuver, which makes it less than ideal for up-close and dynamic fighting situations. The BAR would not have been my first choice if I were heading into Hellfire Valley in November of 1950.
The M3 grease gun would have been a good choice at Chosin Reservoir. In spite of its crude design, it was known to be very reliable. Also, it's small and maneuverable, which is very important for mobility in a fluid battlefield. And although it only fires full automatic, it was very controllable. That allows for a high rate of fire.
The rate of fire of the M3 grease gun would have been a distinct advantage to U.S. Marines fighting against superior numbers of Chinese troops in the push to get to Haigaro-ri in northern Korea. However, with an effective range of roughly 100 yards, it doesn't have the power necessary to take the fight to the enemy at medium distances. This would have been a real disadvantage given the engagement distances often encountered in the Battle of Chosin Reservoir. The FNFAL has become one of the most practical and popular battle rifles of all time. A rugged weapon, it's also highly reliable when properly maintained. With a similar detachable box magazine and a comparable rate of fire to the BAR, the FAL would have given each soldier the firepower potential of the BAR with a tremendous savings in weight, at least 7 pounds lighter. Although technically the .30-06 caliber of the BAR was more powerful, the 7.62 NATO of the FNFAL would have been more than enough to get the job done. If the Korean conflict would have went on much longer, UN forces would have been using the FNFAL. If it were available and I was heading into Hellfire Valley, the FNFAL would have been my first choice.
For law enforcement officers in the United States, the most popular handgun is the Glock. It can be a very effective weapon in a situation like this, provided you have the skill to use it. One thing that makes the Glock such an effective tool is its compact size. Makes it very easy to use in tight quarters. Although it being in a pistol caliber, it's not very effective against body armor. One thing I like in a handgun is reliability, and the Glock has it.
Local Impact is brought to you by TAPCO.
Americans have always been enamored with large, powerful handguns. From the 1840s until today, large caliber revolvers and pistols have been the preferred choice of American soldiers. Plus, American law enforcement officers, more so than their European counterparts, have relied on handguns to help keep the peace. And for sportsmen who are looking for a real challenge, taking down big game at long range with a handgun just might be the ultimate achievement.
In many respects, the Magnum revolver is the epitome of the American handgun. Pioneered by an American company, Smith & Wesson, its size and power were revolutionary at the time of its introduction in 1935. To most people, it was inconceivable that a handgun could produce this much power, and there were many that feared that firing a handgun with this kind of force could result in serious injury to the shooter.
The first era of the Magnum revolver was launched with the introduction of the .357 Magnum. Better known as the registered Magnum, was built on the large end frame, originally designed for .44 and .45 caliber cartridges. Designed in 1934, but introduced a year later, the .357 Magnum was based on the .38 Special cartridge, but with a longer case. It launched a 158 grain projectile at nearly 1,500 feet per second, as opposed to the .38 Special that launched the same weight bullet at approximately half the velocity. In this era, the .357 Magnum was primarily used for hunting, as it was capable of taking down big game. This original .357 Magnum revolver cost $60 in 1935. That would be $1,000 in 2008. That placed it beyond the budgets of most Depression-era police departments and also beyond the means of most American hunters at that time.